Hey, welcome back, Ram fans. Mark from Rams Up here. We're going to continue our exploration of the Rams schedule. We've been walking through each opponent. We went through the AFC teams, all five of them. That's the AFC South plus the Baltimore Ravens. Made some predictions there. And then we went through the NFC South, our four opponents there. Then we hopped over to the Lions and Eagles. And we got to the NFC West, and I decided to take them one team at a time. And a few episodes ago, we looked at the Arizona Cardinals. This episode, we'll be talking about the Seattle Seahawks. How are they shaking out this year? And we'll save the 49ers for last. And before I get started, hey, make sure you check out Behind the Grind episode 2. If you're a draftnik like I am, man, you're going to love this episode. It's really, really kind of cool to watch them in action, at least to some degree, how they operate. And I tell you, I'm watching these episodes, especially the draft episode, and it is so obvious that this team, this organization has it together. And man, what would I pay to be a fly on the wall in that draft room? Hey man, you can tape up my mouth with duct tape, take away all my electronics, just let me sit and listen. I'd like to see their draft analytics software is what I'd like to see. How are they cranking this stuff out? I know a lot of it has to do with tape and gut feeling and McVay chiming in, but there's got to be a database, some metrics, some software that they're using. Data analytics is so big right now. I'd just like to have a peek at that. But that said, before we move on to a look at the Seattle Seahawks, I wanted to talk about a player who wore number 44. And we already talked about Gaston Green and Madison Hedgecock, two running backs. Well, Hedgecock was a fullback that played for the Rams. Hedgecock, unfortunately, made his name with the New York Giants. One of the bigger mistakes the Rams made, I think, letting him go. But I'll talk about another running back fullback, and that is number 44 running back fullback Mike Gumman out of Penn State. Spent his entire 9-year career with the Rams. Hey, the last guy we talked about, Dave Elmendorf, number 42, spent his 9 years with the Rams. So they almost overlapped, just missed. So Gumman came over from Penn State, a 6th-round draft pick, I think he was, and made his name early on as a decent running back. Then the Rams drafted this other guy, Eric Dickerson, and Gumman became more of a lead blocker, fullback type. Finished his Rams career with 342 carries, 1,286 yards, and 11 TDs. Mike Gumman, our number 44 for the Los Angeles Rams. So let's talk about this Seattle Seahawks team. Some changes are coming up there in Seattle, or actually they've already happened. And the first thing we want to talk about is, let's look at their key players. Well, first of all, coached by Mike McDonald. Last year they were 10-7, a second place finish in the NFC West. And remember, they got stung, right, by that tiebreaker, strength of victory tiebreaker. They lost out to the Rams. Second year in a row, they lost out on that tiebreaker. So, yeah, kind of sucks if you're a Seahawks fan, but that's just the way it is. That's the way the rules are written. The Rams have been the beneficiary of that, and the Seahawks kind of getting a little bit screwed. But history versus the Rams. Seahawks actually have a slight edge, 27 wins. 28 wins to 27 losses. They have a 1-game edge, and their last meeting was that January 5th game of this calendar year, Week 18, Seattle 30, Rams 25. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll go through those two 2024 games the Rams and Seahawks played. Both very entertaining, interesting games, but the Seahawks did win that second game. Key players, cornerback Devin Witherspoon, a Pro Bowler, slowly becoming one of the better cover corners in the league. Defensive tackle Leonard Williams, another Pro Bowler, 11 sacks. Wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba, taken over for Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf as the main guy. also a Pro Bowler, 1,130 yards, and two running backs, Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. Neither of them really lit it up. I believe they combined for over 1,000 yards, but pretty close in production. We'll talk about that at the end here. I'm kind of leaning towards, if I'm a Seahawks fan, I want to see more of Charbonnet. If I'm a Rams fan, I'd rather see more of Kenneth Walker, but that's just me. And then, of course, linebacker Ernest Jones, ex-Ram, 98 tackles in 10 games, and he's one of two Seahawks, I should say, that are going to be chomping at the bit come the 2025 season when they face off with the Rams. It's just the way it's going to be. Now, big changes have arrived in Seattle. Big changes. They traded Geno Smith. He's with the Raiders now. They traded DK Metcalf. They released Tyler Lockett. And then they signed Sam Darnold, the new quarterback there. Of course, they also drafted Jalen Milroe. We'll talk about him in a minute. And they signed Cooper Kupp, so another ex-Ram on board there. I don't think he's Cooper Kupp in his prime, obviously, anymore, but he could still be a very good weapon for them. Certainly going to be a big boost to the locker room. We all know that. And they also signed DeMarcus Lawrence, a guy that can really get after the quarterback. Now, they had a bunch of draft picks, and I didn't even include them all on this slide. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, left a couple off just to save some space here. But the 18th overall pick of Gray Zabel, the guard out of North Dakota State. And, I think the Seahawks, they've been trying for years to fix this offensive line. It's always been a bit of a problem for them. And they've spent a couple draft picks over the last couple of years trying to shore it up. And Zabel's going to help. I don't like the idea of drafting a guard at number 18. I've talked about this before. Could he play tackle? I don't think that's the plan for him. He's going to be a guard. They got a couple of guys already in place there. So this offensive line is slowly improving. And at number 35 overall, I like this pick, Nick Amanwari, the safety out of South Carolina. And I've mentioned this once before. As you go through these draft picks, there's 4 or 5 guys on this list that we talked about on the channel here and on the podcast that we would like for our Rams. And Amanwari is one of them. He's just a big, physical, multifaceted safety. He can do everything. And, Seattle, they have a history of those types of players in the secondary. And Nick Amanwari, come on down. Just one more guy that fits that Seahawk mold in the on the back end there. Number 50 overall, Elijah Arroyo, the tight end out of Miami. I think going into the draft, if you ask most Ram fans, the ones I know, the ones that chime in on our channel, they would have taken Arroyo ahead of Terrence Ferguson. But I think personally, the more we've learned about these two players, I'm perfectly okay with the Terrence Ferguson pick, but we'll be watching these two guys develop over the next few years and see who got it right. I have a feeling they both did. I'm really excited about what Ferguson brings to this Sean McVay offense. And Arroyo, he's going to be an impact player there, I think, in Seattle. Then at number 92 overall, the quarterback Jalen Milroe, and that was the guy that Ian talked extensively about. Needs a little bit of polishing, but what an athlete. If he can work on his mechanics and improve his accuracy, he could be a home run at number 92 overall in this draft. He's out of Alabama. Riley Mills, the defensive tackle out of Notre Dame. Torrey Horton, the wide receiver out of Colorado State. I think he's another guy that some Ram fans thought would be a good fit for this offense. Running back Damian Martinez, Miami. So they got 2 players out of the Miami offense there. Really good value late in the draft like that, Damian Martinez. And then tackle Mason Richmond out of Iowa. Ricky White III, a wide receiver out of UNLV that is a special teams standout as well. And I left out a couple of guys. Don't want to overlook them. Robbie Oates out of tight end out of Alabama. I don't know how to pronounce that. And then Bryce Cabaldu, a guard out of Kansas, probably butchered that name as well. Bunch of picks for this Seahawks team, trying to get things turned around. They don't really need, I shouldn't say that. I think what's happening in Seattle is they're trying to remold this team in what Mike McDonald would like this team to be. It's not a Pete Carroll team anymore. It's slowly becoming a Mike McDonald team, a guy that came over from the Ravens, remember, a little bit more physical, solid on defense, just gets things done in the run game on offense. I think that's where he's going with this team. Less flash and more fundamentals and brawn and moving the ball on the ground, stopping the run game, solid defense, takeaways, all that stuff that generally leads to successful football year in and year out. Not that Pete Carroll wasn't getting it done; they were relevant for quite a long time. So Seattle, just a different team. I think they're changing things up, and maybe it was time for that. So last year, what really happened to this team last year? Well, they went 10-7, lost that tiebreaker, as I mentioned. They were 3-6 at home, and they love talking about the 12th man up there in Seattle, but not feeling it last year was not a good look, and they did not have a great ground game. Less than 100 yards per game. Kenneth Walker missed some time, and Zach Charbonnet probably didn't get as many snaps, as many touches as I would like if I'm a Seahawks fan. They got to get that run game going, get it, improve it, and maybe Gray Zabel is going to help that out, help them get it that point it in the right direction. So the Seahawks, the Seattle Seahawks, one of our nemesis, one of our great rivals. What else do we got on them? Against the Rams last year, wow, two crazy games. They really were. That first one, if you remember, November 3rd, the Rams win it in overtime 26-20, and that was one of the weirdest games you'll ever see. Rams very lackluster in the first half. We've seen that. That was kind of a hallmark of this Rams team last year, actually. They did manage a field goal. Seahawks had two TDs, but Michael Hoyt blocked that extra point. So it's 13-3 at halftime. Rams forge a 13-13 tie. And by the way, that was the right before halftime. That was the game Puka gets ejected, which I thought was really lame. Yeah, maybe a penalty, sure, but an ejection for that was really over the top. We saw much worse in ensuing games. But so Puka's out of the game. They go into intermission down 13-3. Rams come back and tie it up. So it's 13-13, but the Seahawks are driving. First and goal from the Rams 6, and what happens? Cam Kinchins intercepts and returns it 103 yards for a touchdown, and the Rams are up 20-13. What a swing. And then the Seahawks come back, get the tying score late in the game. So we go to overtime. The Seahawks get the ball first, and they're 4th and 1 from the Rams 16. They decide to go for it. Aggressive pass on the field goal, knowing that the Rams could win the game with a touchdown. So they go for it, and Bobby Brown makes the tackle, denies them the first down. And kind of worth mentioning here, two big plays by two guys that are no longer with the Rams. Michael Hoyt, the blocked extra point, and Bobby Brown, one of the few big plays he made in his years with the Rams, but this was certainly one of them. So the Rams get the ball, 24 yards to Tyler Johnson, 16 yards to Tutu, Kyron for 4 yards, and then 2nd and 6 from the Seahawks 39. Y'all remember it, that one-handed catch by Demarcus Robinson. Oh, hey, 3 big plays by 3 guys that are no longer with the Rams. But Demarcus with that incredible catch, and the Rams walk off the field, winners in overtime, 26-20. That was a crazy game, and I remember watching that the first half. I just thought this was one of those games. The Rams didn't bring it. And there are games where I feel that way, and I kick myself later on. I should know better. This Rams offense is going to kick in at some point. Matthew Stafford's going to get it going. And they did. They came back and won the game. Now, the Week 18 game, the Seahawks win 30-25. This is the game the Rams sat a bunch of guys. I don't understand to this day what the Rams are doing. You kind of half in. They're going half in. You're not going all in. You're going half in. You're playing some guys that you probably shouldn't be playing. If you're going to play for the win, go for it. If you're not, then rest guys like Blake Corum. But the Rams chose to kind of go half in. Jimmy G had a great game. Rams took their only lead of the game in the fourth quarter, 25-24, but the Seahawks answered, took a 30-25 lead. And 4th and 3 from the Seahawks 9-yard line, trying to pull off the win. Jimmy, his pass to Jordan Whittington falls short, and Seahawks get the win. But Jimmy was pretty good that day, 27 of 41 for 334 yards and 2 TDs. Blake Corum breaks his arm, and the Rams just sat way too many guys if they really expected to get a win here. I'm wondering if they wanted to get some guys in the game to give them some playing time. Realized late in the game, hey man, we got a shot at this. Let's leave some of these guys in. But I was, it's a really tough thing to watch. You always want your team to win, but at the same time, let's get some guys off the field. So I don't know what the answer is, but we kind of paid the price. If we had gotten the win, it might have been worth a broken arm by Blake Corum, but didn't work out that way. So the Rams split with the Seahawks. So what about this 2025 version of these two teams? How do I think it's going to go? Well, let's see. They play weeks 11 and week 16. Week 11 is at home again at SoFi. And then they have a Thursday night game, December 18th in Seattle. And this is the thing about these two teams. Over the recent years, the Seahawks have swept the Rams twice. One year, that was when the Rams ran John Wolford out there 2 times. And the time before that, you got to go all the way back to 2013 when Kellen Clemens was the Rams quarterback and the Seahawks got the sweep. After that, it's been either the Rams sweeping or they're splitting the 2 games. This year, I think it's inconceivable to me that Seattle would get a sweep. So remember, I'm working through the worst case and best case for each of these matchups, these groups of games. So I think the worst case is a split again, and I think the Rams have a very good chance of sweeping the Seahawks. Seahawks, they're a tough team to figure out this year. They could be on a little bit of a steep learning curve at this point still. A lot of changes. When are they going to have it together? When are they going to start rolling? I think they eventually will. Sam Darnold, is he going to give way to Jalen Milroe at some point? A lot to figure out up there in Seattle. A lot of unknowns. But for that reason, and as good as this Rams roster is, and I think it just keeps getting better, and they're a hungry team, there's no way the Seahawks sweep the Rams. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I just don't see it. Do I see the Rams potentially sweeping Seattle? Absolutely. That could happen, and I'm almost leaning that way. So my updated situation here on the YouTube channel, I'm showing this, the worst case versus Seattle, a split, 1 win and 1 loss, and the best case, 2 wins and 0 losses. So I didn't cop out this time. Against the Cardinals, I said it was going to be 1 and 1, best and worst case. And Philadelphia and Detroit, I did the same thing. But totaled up now, so far, 15 games into this schedule. Again, we're not going chronologically. We're going by opponents and divisions. 8 and 7, worst case so far. In the best case, 12 and 3. 15 games in, and there's 2 games left that we haven't talked about. Saving that for last makes sense because it is probably the team that is most likely going to challenge us for a divisional title, and that is the San Francisco 49ers. So we're through the AFC South and the Baltimore Ravens. We're through the NFC South. We are through those 2 first place teams. We got to play in the NFC, the Lions and the Eagles, and we are through the NFC South. So we are through the NFC. So we're through the AFC South plus the Baltimore Ravens, the other AFC team. We are through the NFC South, the 4 teams there we play. We've talked about the 2 games against the first place teams, the Eagles and the Lions, the 2 first place teams in the NFC we have to play. And we have talked about the Arizona Cardinals and the Seattle Seahawks. Worst case, 8-7. Best case, 12-3. We got two more games to talk about, those two 49er games, and we'll do that in a couple of days out here from Rams Up.